I'm Kelly Dobbins. I own Mid-South Drug Testing. I've been in business 17 years. Been drug testing almost 30 years. I have a bachelor and a master's degree in criminal justice. Started out in banking, which has nothing to do with any of this. Ran a probation company for 11 years, and like I said, I've owned my own company for 17. Drug testing is kind of a natural fit with criminal justice and probation. Criminals typically are drug tested. It's part of their probation sentencing that they get. They usually get drug tested. And so drug testing came very naturally for me. I ended up being the chief financial officer, but there's always this one job in the office that's yours. Maybe it's taking out the trash, maybe it's making coffee. Mine, for whatever reason, was drug testing. I was always the one that got all the training on the drug testing, trained everybody else. It was a small office. We had, I don't know, maybe 30 employees. And for whatever reason, I always did the drug testing. So it was really a natural progression. In the early 2000s, I really started seeing where employment drug testing was really taking off. And I told my boss, we really ought to separate part of the company and do drug testing. And my boss said, well, I've always dealt with criminals, and employees have rights and criminals don't. And I don't want to do that. So I left and started my own company. And he's right. Employees have rights. So everything you do in drug testing has to be on the up and up. You have to be very careful what you do, and you have to assure your clientele that their records are safe. I mean, we have to make sure that everything is done in a confidential manner. We can't talk to you over the phone. Don't call me and ask me what Johnny's results are over the phone, because I'm not going to tell you. It's the way it goes. As far as drug testing goes, it's been an interesting ride. So much has changed in the past, 25, 30 years, but especially in the last probably 5. We've seen oral fluids just take off. Hair testing is so standard. You now can get an 18-panel hair test, which wasn't even heard of 5 years ago. You can test, urine testing is still the same as it's always been, but you can test for so much more in urine as well. One of the things that I think differentiates, my company from other companies is not only are we 24/7, not that we're open 24/7, but we're available 24/7, is that we also have the ability, using different labs, we have the ability to test for poisons, toxins, nicotine, date rape. You name it, we can test it. You can bring me a pair of blue jeans that you think has cocaine in the pocket, but don't tell me you think it has cocaine in the pocket, because I can't put that on a piece of paper. But I can send it to a lab and ask them what this unknown specimen is. And they can test that and tell me this unknown specimen is cocaine, and no, I cannot send those blue jeans back to you, because now it's got a controlled substance on it. But at least you'll know what was on it. Same as hair. You can take hair out of a hairbrush and bring it to me, and I can test it. Can't take it to court, but I can test it and tell you what's in it. So if you want to know if someone's using, but you don't want them to know that you want to know that they're using, and you don't want to cut their hair while they're asleep, there's ways around that. So there's a lot that we can do with the different laboratories that we use. It's one of the reasons that we use multiple laboratories. Everybody's got their own take on what they're good at. You have some labs that are great at oral fluids or saliva testing. You have some labs that are great at hair testing. And one of our hair testing labs happens to be in the chemical field. They're in Houston, Texas area, and they've always done chemical stuff. So I'm very fortunate. You can say, I think my husband's trying to kill me, and I think he's giving me chemicals. And we can do a hair test, and we can do an unknown toxin screen. And we can say, given this multitude of toxins, whatever their library is that they test for, they can look at that and say, you're positive for this, or you're not positive for this. Maybe it's something else. But we have the ability to do that. So drug testing has really changed a lot. I mean, it's not just, are you smoking pot? And it's just not that anymore. It's so much more than what it originally started out as. Having said that, we're very fortunate. We actually do drug testing for a whole lot of different companies, and we do a tremendous amount of court work here in Memphis. But we do every type of drug testing there is. We do PET, we do breath alcohol, we do urine alcohol, we do hair alcohol, we do hair drug testing. I already talked about poisons, toxins, nicotine. We do urine testing. We do DNA testing, and the PEth testing, which is blood. So we're able to do a lot of different methodologies using a lot of different labs. The stories. Just like I can't make up stories about people that walk in my office, you can't make up these clients that hire you. I think it's interesting. I'm an old-fashioned, as I call myself, an old-fashioned college professor. I taught college for 5 years at Crichton, which eventually became Victory and went out of business. But I was a criminal justice teacher, and I'm very hands-on. So I would have my friend at the morgue come in and do a 4-hour presentation on what happens at the morgue. And, we would go to the prison and visit the prison so that my students could find out what it's like to be a correctional officer. Or maybe we'd ride with the police for a couple hours one night so they could find out what cops do all the time. And it really opens your eyes to a lot of what's going on. I think being an expert witness, I'm able to bring stories and explain very mundane scientific crap in English. I'm able to say, this is how a hair test works. Instead of trying to quote you something out of a book, I can actually tell you how it works. And I know over the years, I know the judges appreciate that because they don't know how this works. They know it does, but they don't know how it works. And for someone to be able to explain it in English makes it a whole lot better for everybody involved. The other thing that I think is interesting about being an expert witness is the fact that I don't work for one person or another. My job is to tell the truth and to speak. It doesn't matter who asked me to come to court. I'm not changing my testimony based on who may be paying the bill or not paying the bill. And I think that's an interesting take on my role as I see it as an expert witness. I don't know about other people, but I know for me, it's always about the truth and how something works. How does this scientific method work? How do we extract drugs out of hair? How does that work? And what does that mean? What do nanograms mean? What do a picogram? What is an aliquot of hair? What does all that mean? And so I think it's important from the old college professor standpoint, but also being able to educate people. And the more I can educate, the more I can train you into what you need to order to get what you're looking for, the easier both of our jobs are. If you just ask for a drug test and you don't give me any indication of what this person's using, I can guarantee that person's probably going to be negative. And you're not going to get what you're looking for, and we just wasted a bunch of money and time for nothing. So I think all that goes back to the more I educate, the more you understand. And when you do call on me to come to court, you know that I'm going to speak the truth. And I'm going to talk about how things work. That's what I see my role as. As far as professional accomplishments, I think one of the funniest things that I can remember is there used to be a magazine here years ago called Skirt. And they had men in skirts and women in skirts and all kinds of people in skirts. But it was a cool little magazine. And they came out to see me, and I think it was, I can't actually remember, it may be 2007, it was a long time ago. They came out and took a picture of me, and the caption underneath it said entrepreneur. I had to look the word up in the dictionary. I was like, entrepreneur? I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur. And when I looked at the definition and I realized what they were talking about, I said, wow, that is what I am. That is what I do. it's like you constantly keep reinventing the wheel and coming up and making it better and getting better at it and achieving more and growing it bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't know that that's my proudest accomplishment, but I do think that that was a label that I had never considered before. Um, I've won many awards, Women in Business Awards. Probably being a superwoman in 2014 would probably be, one of my biggest accomplishments because I did not nominate myself for that. I don't even know who did actually. But when I look back at it, the company I keep with that group of women is huge. I mean, I got it the same year that Kat from Muddy's Bake Shop got it. And I just love her and I buy cakes from her. And I just, once again, it goes back to the definition of entrepreneur. I never saw myself in that light. And then when you're up with this same group of people, you're like, wow, I really am that person. It's a lot to think about. If I could share a meal with 3 individuals living or dead, who would they be? Well, definitely Mother Teresa. Not just because of her love of God, but because of her love of people. She was the most non-judgmental person, which I strive to be. You can't live your life and not have some isms. We all have isms. We don't mean to be. I don't think most people mean to be, racist or hair color against or anything like that. But I do think that we all have some of that in us. And I think she embodied what God would want us to be. Love God, do good, do no harm. Those things. Barack Obama, because I find him extremely interesting. Probably his wife I would want to interview more than him. I read her book. She's very interesting, but I find him really diversified and interesting. Probably Nelson Mandela, because I think he went through something I can't even imagine. I can't imagine apartheid and how awful that was, but he always kept that belief that one day it would be better, and he strived to make it better, and he did. And I think that's another, just a success story of some sort, But I think those would be interesting individuals to, I don't know, ask them questions. You said sharing a meal. I think the whole time I'd probably be talking and I would not even eat. If you want to get in contact with me, you can reach me at www.midsouthdrugtesting.com. My email address is Kelly Dobbins at midsouthdrugtesting.com. You can reach me by phone, 901-320-9295.